Let's cut right to the chase. The moment Cortis, a brand new group under HYBE's umbrella, was announced with the tagline self-produced, a storm began to brew that no one at the company could have fully predicted. It wasn't just excitement, it was immediate, visceral backlash. Because in the highly stratified world of K-pop, the title self-producing isn't just a descriptor, it's a crown, a hard-earned badge of honor reserved for veterans like BTS's RM, Suga, and J-Hope, or G-Dragon of Big Bang, artists who spent years proving their creative mettle. So when a pre-debut group with members as young as 16 was handed that label from day one, a significant portion of the K-pop community didn't just raise an eyebrow, they declared war. The core question exploded across social media. Are Cortis really self-produced? Or is this a brilliant yet cynical marketing ploy by HYBE to tap into the prestige of artistic authenticity without the traditional struggle? This debate quickly spiraled far beyond music, pulling in accusations of industry privilege, generational divides in fandom, and a fundamental clash over what creation even means in the modern idol system. The controversy ignited with the pre-release of their debut process. HYBE released behind-the-scenes content showing the members, Sumin, Songjun, Jerome, Xian, and Taeho, in studios, at whiteboards, and in dance practices, seemingly crafting their own sound and concept. To some newer fans, especially Gen Z and Alpha audiences raised on YouTube creators and TikTok aesthetics, this was revolutionary. Idols presented not as polished final products, but as visible, struggling artists. But to critics, particularly stans of established self-producing acts, these clips felt staged, curated, and most damningly, assisted. Rumors and leaks, often from anonymous industry insider accounts on platforms like X, began to swirl. Whispers suggested that while the members might contribute melodies or lyrics, the final production, the heavy lifting of arrangement and sonic engineering, was handled by a shadow roster of in-house HYBE producers, the very same hitmakers who work on other label groups. Critics pointed out that the credited songwriters on their early tracks included known professional names alongside the members, asking, if you need a team of seasoned pros to finalize your vision, can you truly claim to be the primary architect? The online battlegrounds, particularly on Twitter and TikTok, became toxic. Hashtags like #Cortis is not self-produced trended alongside defensive tags from their fledgling fandom. Fans of older self-producing idols launched ruthless comparisons, posting side-by-side videos of, say, Suga explaining his detailed production process on a track from 2016 versus a Cortis member offering a vaguer, more emotional description of their contribution. The argument wasn't just about credit, it was about legitimacy and respect for a hierarchy that stans felt was being disrespected. They haven't paid their dues became a common refrain. This wasn't merely fan wars, it touched a nerve about industry nepotism and access. The argument went, Cortis, by virtue of debuting under the monolithic HYBE, had instant access to top-tier producers, studios, and resources that earlier self-producing idols had to fight for years to earn. The environment where they create, which critics described as a prefabricated playground, was furnished for them from the start, leading doubters to question the genuine authenticity of their artistic path from the outset. Then came the counter-arguments from media analysts and a growing segment of fans, which shifted the debate into more philosophical territory. Journalists from outlets like Forbes and Billboard noted that HYBE wasn't marketing Cortis as traditional idol producers in the old sense. Instead, they were framing them as a creator crew, a unit that operates more like an in-house startup or a digital content collective. Their creativity was presented as holistic, conceptualizing music videos, directing their own variety content, workshopping choreography, and then presenting these packages to the label for scaling and polish. In this model, the self-production claim wasn't about solely engineering every synth sound, but about originating and driving the creative direction from the ground up, a model deeply familiar to Gen Z audiences who see influencers ideate, shoot, edit, and brand their own content daily. This perspective framed the older K-pop stans' outrage as a generational misunderstanding, an attempt to apply a second-gen idol standard to a fourth-gen digitally native phenomenon. The flames were fanned further by the industry itself. Comments from veteran producers and songwriters, sometimes veiled, added fuel. One producer in an interview not directly about Cortis mused about the changing definition of production in K-pop, noting that with today's advanced user-friendly software, the technical barrier to entry is lower, but the conceptual burden is higher. Another anonymously told a podcast that everyone in HYBE knows the boys have help, but the narrative is more important than the technicality. These insider glimpses were seized upon by both sides, as proof of fraud by critics and as proof of an outdated industry resisting change by supporters. The scandal was no longer just about Cortis. It became a proxy war for the soul of K-pop's future. Is the industry moving moving towards a more collaborative, transparent, and process-driven model where the idol's creative voice is central, even if not technically solitary? Or is this a corporatized co-option of authenticity, watering down the meaning of true artistic authorship for commercial gain? Cortis's debut at Mama 2025, rather than silencing critics, intensified the debate in a new way. Their performance, which featured member Martin building a track live with loop pedals, was hailed by supporters as ultimate, irrefutable proof of their artistry. You can't fake a live composition in front of thousands. Yet critics dissected the performance frame by frame, arguing the core elements were pre-composed and the live aspect was merely theatrical layering, a spectacle, not genuine creation. The division was absolute. What one side saw as a groundbreaking statement of method, the other saw as an expertly choreographed illusion. This is where the controversy cemented itself. It became unfalsifiable. Belief in Cortis's self-production became a matter of faith, shaped entirely by which lens you chose to view them through: the cynical lens of industry marketing or the optimistic lens of a new creative paradigm. The lasting impact of this controversy is more significant than any one group's reputation. It has forced the entire K-pop ecosystem to re-examine its terminology. Self-produced is now a loaded, arguably outdated term. It has exposed a fierce generational rift in fandom culture between those who value polished, expert-driven perfection and those who value visible, iterative process. For HYBE, the strategy was arguably a success. Cortis debuted with immense buzz and a defined, debate-ready identity, but the cost was a segment of the core K-pop audience that may never accept them. The scandal proved that in today's K-pop, the most explosive conflicts aren't always about dating or bullying, but about concepts, authenticity, and the very definitions we use to measure an artist's worth. Cortis didn't just debut with songs. They debuted with a question that the industry is still struggling to answer. And as long as that question hangs in the air, the controversy, in some form, will continue to define them.